December 31st, 2000. People all over the world are getting ready to celebrate the new year. The first year of the new millennium is wrapping up, and everyone is looking forward to fresh starts and the excitement of what's coming next. But in the suburbs of Western Tokyo, a grandmother is trying to get a hold of her daughter, her son-in-law, and her grandkids. In just a few minutes, her entire world is going to shatter, and an investigation into one of the most twisted and infamous murders in Japanese history will begin. Mikio Miyazawa and his wife Yasuko lived in the Kamiso Shigeya neighborhood of Setagaya. He had a job at a marketing firm, and she spent her days as a teacher. They were a solid couple, totally devoted to each other, and their two kids, Nina and Rei. Nina was a sharp, bright little girl. At just 8 years old, she was already a year ahead in school and lived for dancing. Her grandma, Haruko, remembered how much she loved ballet and how she'd always put on little shows for the family. Her younger brother, Rei, was 6. He was a funny, curious kid who had special needs and required some extra help, but his family absolutely adored him. Both kids grew up in a home filled with nothing but love and warmth. On December 30th, the Miyazawas spent a day just relaxing, like any other family during the holidays. They went out shopping, grabbed dinner, and then settled in to watch a movie. Family was the center of the universe for the Miyazawas. So much so that Yasuko's mother, Haruko, lived right nearby. She loved her daughter and son-in-law and lived to spoil those grandkids, like she did most mornings. Haruko called the house to check in on them on December 31st. But when she picked up the phone and dialed, something felt wrong. The call wouldn't connect. The phone line at the Miyazawa house had been completely cut. Haruko felt that immediate pit in her stomach. She rushed over the house, but when she knocked, there was no answer. With her panic starting to redline, she opened the door and let herself inside. Lying at the bottom of the stairs was the body of her son-in-law. He had been brutally stabbed to death. She then ran upstairs where she found her daughter and granddaughter. They, too, had been stabbed. As she searched the rest of the house, she found her beloved grandson in his bed. He had been strangled to death. Haruko's screams were apparently so loud that those in neighboring houses heard her cries. The police soon arrived on the scene after the alarm was raised. Takeshi Sachida served as an officer for 41 years before his retirement. He was the chief officer at Seiho Police Station, and they were in charge of the investigation. He and his colleagues were determined to get justice for the slain family. Takeshi said that the scene was so traumatizing that the facial expressions of the family are still etched into his memory to this day. The news of the murder sent shockwaves throughout Japan. Murders of this nature are extremely rare, and people could not believe that a family could be murdered in their own home in the most horrific way. When Mikio's mother, Setsuko, found out that they had been killed, she said she went into such a state of shock that she blanked out. The first thing they had to determine was a point of entry. How had the killer gained access to the house? The back of the house faced Ashigaya Park. This gave the perpetrator different places to enter the house from while remaining undetected. One theory that the police thought was most likely was that the killer had climbed a tree by the house and entered the second-floor bathroom after removing the window screen. This is still, however, just a theory. The exact point of entry remains unknown. This was further complicated when Haruko initially told investigators she had used her spare key to let herself in, but then said she wasn't sure, as the door could have been unlocked. It was hard for detectives to determine exactly how the killer had gained entry. What is known is that the events that unfolded that night are nothing short of a nightmare. After entering Rei's room, the killer strangled the 6-year-old with their bare hands. Rei's father had heard the commotion and ran upstairs to investigate. Mikio fought the intruder off with all his might. He was able to injure the assailant, but the attacker was armed. Using a sashimi knife, he stabbed Mikio in the head. He stabbed him with such force that part of the blade broke off. The killer then moved through the house and attacked Yasuko and Nina with the broken blade before using a santoka knife belonging to the family to stab the mother and daughter to death. The investigators believe that the killer carried on stabbing Yasuko and Nina even after they had died. Having just wiped out the Miyazawa family in the most brutal fashion, the killer did not leave. Police estimate that they remained inside the home for between 2 and 10 hours. The intruder ate food from the fridge and drank tea. They used the family first aid kit to treat the wounds they had sustained from Mikio while attempting to fight them off. They used the family's computer to surf the internet at around 1:18 that morning, within just a few hours of annihilating an entire family. The internet was also turned on at around 10 a.m. on the morning Haruko discovered the bodies. While this could have been the killer, it could also have been accidentally triggered by Haruko when she entered the home. The killer also took a nap on the sofa in the second-floor living room, while the bodies of the Miyazawa family were scattered throughout the house. As the investigation got underway, police were able to determine several clues about the killer's identity. Before leaving the house, the killer not only left the knives used in the murder, but also several items of clothing. Investigators determined that the items had been bought in the Kanagawa prefecture. They discovered the sweater left behind was one of only 130 ever made. It was a rare piece of clothing that only a select few had. Despite this being a major lead, it would prove to be fruitless. Despite the best efforts of the police, they were only able to find 12 of the people who had bought one of the sweaters. Another item that was left in the house was a hip bag. During the analysis, trace amounts of sand were found inside. After extensive testing, the sand was determined to have originated in the Nevada desert. More precisely, the area of Edwards Air Force Base in California. Crime scene examiners scoured the house and were able to find fingerprints and DNA belonging to the killer littered throughout. When they were put through Tokyo's police database, it came back with no matches. Either they had no criminal record, or they weren't a Japanese citizen. It was also revealed that the killer's blood was type A, which did not belong to the Miyazawa family. The blood revealed further clues about the murderer. It was revealed that the killer was male, possibly of mixed-race heritage. The killer's maternal DNA indicated his mother was of European descent, and his paternal DNA revealed a father of East Asian origin. The Y chromosome was scrutinized, and this showed the haplogroup OM122, common among people of East Asian heritage, present in 1 in 4 or 5 Koreans, 1 in 13 Japanese, and 1 in 10 Chinese people. With more evidence pointing to a possibly international killer, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police called upon the help of the International Criminal Police Organization, as the murderer could have left the country. When it came time for the funeral of the Miyazawa family, Setsuko, Mikio's mother, said she was so traumatized that she cannot remember it. She was so stricken with grief that she had to be carried inside. The pressure was building on investigators to provide answers for the shattered family. The police released a mock-up of what the killer had possibly looked like and the clothes he would have been wearing. He was estimated to be around 5'5" and of slim stature. They also believed he was between the ages of 15 and 35 due to the physical fitness it would have required to enter the home and commit the murders. The wounds sustained by the Miyazawa family also indicated that he was right-handed. The investigation into the Miyazawa family massacre became the center of national news, and many theories started to circulate. One theory was that Mikio had been seen arguing with youth skateboarding in the park near his home, as the clothes left at the scene could indicate a skater. Maybe someone had had enough of Mikio's complaints about the noise and sought revenge. It wasn't just the police who were conducting investigations. An investigative journalist named Fumiya Ichihashi covered the case extensively. He wrote a book about it, and he argued that the murderer was a former soldier from the South Korean army who became a hitman. Ichihashi has said that the family was paid compensation when the park near the house had been expanded, and this was a motive for the killer. He has also said that as the killer left behind not only clothes and the murder weapons, but also DNA and fingerprints, he would have had to have been sure he wouldn't be apprehended. He also believes that the initial investigation was not enough. All the special investigators for the Tokyo Police Department were working on different cases, so the reserve team was used instead, and due to it being New Year's Eve, many investigators were at home with their families. So valuable time could have been lost when sending officers to the crime scene. Investigator Sachida has dismissed these claims, calling them nonsense. The investigation into the murders of the Miyazawa family became one of the biggest in Japanese history. Nearly 250,000 officers were involved, and over 12,000 pieces of evidence were collected. Police scoured the local area with a fine-tooth comb. They interviewed friends and associates of the Miyazawa family to try and find a motive in this seemingly random case. But every lead would go nowhere. Despite the tireless efforts of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police, the countless hours spent investigating, and the very specific details they have been able to uncover about the killer, they have never been able to determine his identity, and he remains at large to this day. The detectives who worked on the Miyazawa case have since retired, but the investigators have never given up hope that the perpetrator of the Miyazawa family massacre would be brought to justice. As of 2019, there are 35 officers assigned to the case. There is a reward of 20 million yen for any information that could help solve the murders. Every year, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Force make a pilgrimage to the house to renew their promise that the killer will be caught. Manabu-Ide works for the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Special Investigative Task Force. He has vowed to carry on until the killer has been captured and has said that his colleagues want to help the family rest in peace by finding their murderer. The house has sat empty since that terrible day, frozen in time. Because it's getting so old, the police finally want to tear it down. Superintendent Ide has promised that every bit of evidence inside has been saved, so knocking it down won't hurt the case. Takeshi Sachida might be retired, but he has never walked away from this. Even now, he hands out his own flyers to find new leads and visits the house all the time just to keep the details fresh in his mind. He stays close with Mikio's mother, Setsuko. She keeps a shrine in her home for her son, daughter-in-law, and grandkids. Every time Sachida visits, he prays there and promises the family he won't stop until they get justice. Setsuko keeps her grandchildren's favorite toys on display in a cabinet. She says her biggest heartbreak is that she never got to see them grow up and become the incredible people they should have been. The damage from these murders is massive and can never be fixed. The investigators still can't get that crime scene out of their heads and won't find peace until the killer is behind bars. Setsuko says she is just waiting for the day she can go to that shrine and tell her family that the monster who slaughtered them in such a sick, brutal way has finally been caught. If you know anything at all about the murders of Mikio Miyazawa, Yasuko Miyazawa, Nina Miyazawa, and Rei Miyazawa, please reach out to the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. If you enjoyed this true crime story, don't forget to subscribe to Crimey Pencil for more real and chilling cases. Hit the bell icon so you never miss the next story, because the darkest truths are yet to come.